I think all of the hard decisions that I had to make were behind one thing, and it was stepping outside of my comfort zone. So it wasn't just one specific decision, it was any time that I had to do something where I was putting myself in a place that I wasn't comfortable, like leaving my relationship, like leaving teaching. That was hard, you know? Those were very hard decisions because I was so good at that. I was so comfortable. It felt so right throughout the years that I was there. But all of them adding up, it was, I would say the hardest decision is to take that step forward even when it doesn't make sense.
Welcome back to the Happy Positive Energy Game podcast with me, your host Luke Anning, and I hope all you beautiful people are feeling bright and warm, and if not, that is exactly why we are here today. I am so excited. Not only if you're watching this live, I'm with my coach Arden Shiller, and Arden is an online business coach who helps you grow your online business coaching business intentionally and effectively. She's been pivotal within my business. She's been pivotal with a lot of my close friends' businesses as well. So Arden, I'm so excited that you're here.
Well, thank you for having me, Luke.
So we are going to go over quite a few things in this podcast. We've got a hot 40 minutes for us to both come in and talk around decision making. But before we get into decision making, I suppose I want to ask you the question of what's your backstory to come to where you're at right now, to where I'm at your beautiful apartment.
Yeah. Do you like the background? It's pink.
It's pink as pink can be.
On brand always, right? Yeah, so a little bit about me. So I started my online fitness company in August 2020. Prior to that, I was a kindergarten teacher. Everyone laughs at that. They're like, oh yeah, of course. Kindergarten teachers are like the best entrepreneurs, I guess. But I started in August 2020, kind of accidentally, not really intending to have an extremely successful business, but that happened. And as I was teaching, I was also growing my online business for fitness, targeting teachers. And I reached a point in January 2021, so just 4 months into my business, I was hitting 10K months. And I knew at that point there was no reason to be in the classroom anymore. It started to really become a disservice to my students. So I quit teaching mid-year. And from there, I was able to continue to scale and grow my company to multiple six figures. And super exciting and nerve-wracking news is I am selling the fitness company by the end of this year, because back in April 2022, so about 6-7 months ago, I started online business coaching. I had a lot of friends who were also running businesses, and they were like, hey Arden, like I see your business coaching or your fitness coaching business is doing really well. Please support me, please help me. And I took everything that I learned in my fitness company, where a lot of it was a lot of failures, and I decided that it would honestly be the best if I could teach people how to not go through what I went through in my fitness company, and rather help them create a business that is going to go far rather than very fast, and also possibly even fail very fast. So that's where I'm at today.
There's quite a big shift for you to come through like so many different points so quickly.
Yeah. In just 2.5 years, I really did shift a lot in business. Mm-hmm.
So I want to get into the sticky. So like, how have you handled your mindset around making such like a critical decision? Because ultimately, like, mindset can make or break us. So like, how have you handled mindset?
Yeah, I mean, with decision making and deciding to go from a very successful fitness company into starting business coaching from zero, while I was making all of these transitions, I also went through a breakup after 5.5 years. I moved across the country, so I moved 3,000 miles away, and I started business coaching all within the same 2 months. And during that time, all the decisions I made were exactly the decisions that I needed to make to skyrocket my growth. And in that time, I had no idea that that's what I needed to do, but it brought me to a place of understanding that I had to peel off several layers to move forward. And I think sometimes when we're making decisions in the moment, it's really easy to stay comfortable, right? It's really easy not to drive 3,000 miles away to a place you've never been before or don't really know many people. It's easy to stay in a comfortable relationship with someone you've been with for 5.5 years. It's easy to stay in a business that is making enough money that you literally don't have to even think about it. But that's the best part about growing, is that, yeah, it's not easy. And so when I was making those decisions, they weren't easy. And now I look back and I'm like, thank God I did.
So why are you thankful that you did?
Because it sounds so crazy, but when I was in that place of having all of the money, I had the relationship, I had the home, I had everything. I really did. And I was still the unhappiest I'd ever been. Like, I remember I used to go for runs, and I was going for a run I was living in Philadelphia, and I ran out to my secret special spot, and I laid in the sun in my special spot in the middle of the Manning Dam, and there was water all around me, and I was on this concrete, pike, and I just laid there, and I was like, I literally have everything, and I hate my life, and I don't know why. And because of that moment, that's when I realized I was just being comfortable. And I realized that I wasn't even living a life for me. And that's the craziest part about making decisions, is that I realized that all of the decisions I had made up until that point were not decisions that I wanted to make, that I wanted to do. And I saw that a lot throughout my fitness business. As much as it's sad to say, that business was successful because I didn't make any of the decisions in it. And I was so focused on the next step, the next level, and someone tell me what to do to get to the next place. Someone tell me how to get to 30K months. Someone tell me the next step to 40K months. Tell me who I'm going to hire. Who's going to be my virtual assistant? Who's going to be my next assistant coach? I didn't make decisions. I had mentors, I had people around me, and I'm so freaking grateful for that. But I grew that business to 40K plus months, and I literally hated it. I hated every part of it, which is why it was so easy to just let go of it and shift to business coaching, because I knew stepping into business coaching, I was going to grow this my way, the way I want to do it.
So when you say you hated every single part, I'm sure there was obviously parts that you enjoyed, the client transformations and stuff, but it was the actual running the business yourself. It didn't feel like a business that you'd built. It felt like a business that somebody else had built.
Yes, exactly. I loved working with my fitness clients. I loved seeing their transformations and the messages they sent me. That's what kept me going. That's honestly what kept me going, right? The ability to help somebody transform. I mean, that's literally what I love to do. But it was all of the other decisions, the business side of stuff, right? And so I had to learn what I liked and what I didn't like in the business side of stuff, right? The back end stuff. Did I want to run ads? Did I want to, do I want to do things organically? Do I want to cold DM? Do I want to just allow people to feel attracted to me? How do I want to run my business that feels good to me? Because for so long I was doing what everyone else told me to do.
So when you came to deciding what you wanted to do, and I think this is such a critical point for people who are listening, because taking radical responsibilities, I would say, is sort of that really transformational moment. That was the moment that I decided to take responsibility for my actual life, and then decided to go for a fitness transformation. Then the fitness transformation turned into, okay, I'm going to get hold of my career. And then it took from the career, it was okay, and then I'm moving into coaching. And then how would you step somebody forward, or how would you step your younger self forward if you were to do it again, to start taking responsibility for what you truly want rather than what somebody else's vision is?
That's such an amazing question. I think far too often, mentors tend to put... I had a mentorship consistently, one-on-one, with different mentors throughout my first 2 years of growing the fitness company. And I didn't realize it, but I was being put in a box in the industry the whole time. Like, I couldn't or didn't have the ability to innovate in my business. And if I did want to do something that was innovative, it was quote unquote wrong, or you wouldn't see success. And I think that just as mentors or even as coaches, guiding your clients rather than telling them what to do is going to allow them to step into their highest innovative selves. And I didn't have that. Not that my mentors weren't bad. They were exactly what I needed at that time. And I love them and they literally helped me so much. But what I'm realizing is that there's a special type of mentorship where the mentor allows the client to find success in a way that they enjoy.
So if somebody came to you and they were like initially flowing with like one idea and then they completely like pivoted and they were like, no, I want to do this thing. Because I know this as coach, like there's such a fine line between like re-guiding somebody and just calling it out for like shiny object syndrome. Because like we had this early on in my journey where I can't actually remember what the thing was that I wanted to do. I can't remember. But there was just like this way of like almost tough loving. And I think this isn't really talked about in the coaching industry, where we talk about it kind of being like, oh, you know, you're going to do this thing and like, I'm going to support you doing it. But like, actually some of the best coaches will really like call you out and just say like, hey, like you need to focus on this, not this right now. Like, how do you walk into and step into that? Because I know it's challenging myself. Like I've had client issues arise. And you might listen to this now and you might not be a coach, but like you might be in a workplace, you might be a manager, or you might see your coworker doing something, or you might even see your partner doing something, but you feel like this apprehension to actually step forward and say something because of whatever fear is there. Like, how do you step into that coming from a place of love when you know that you're probably going to trigger somebody?
I think it comes down to questioning them. Like letting them pull it out from inward, right? So asking them, I think the first question that I really like to ask my clients is like, is this something you're doing out of fear? Like, is this something that you're doing because you feel like maybe you're not worthy or you're doubting yourself with where you're at right now? Or is this something that you're doing because you genuinely feel driven and pulled and passionate about it? And I think it takes a very strong-willed and understanding of who you are type person to know the difference between actually genuinely being aligned with something versus doing or pushing away or pulling away or even doing something out of fear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, keep going with this.
Yeah, so like, I mean, for me, a lot of what I did in my fitness company was because I was scared I would fail. So I spent a lot of times like doing things I didn't want to do, showing up in ways I didn't want to show up. I was very scarce. I was very like, I wasn't that great of a leader. And it was because I was doing everything in that company out of fear because I didn't truly feel aligned with it. Like I didn't want to do it. And when you are doing something that you don't want to do, like, yeah, it can grow. But it feels a hell of a lot better when you're actually doing something that you feel aligned with, that you're doing because you love it, right? And because it's not out of fear, it's out of abundance. And I think that a lot of times, like in my fitness company, I was just driven because I was like, oh my God, I'm not worthy if I'm not making 10K months. I'm not good enough if I'm not making 40K months. I'm never gonna be the best. But then it's like, what even is the best? Who am I comparing myself to? Why am I so worried about getting to 40K months so damn quickly? Literally, we have our whole lives ahead of us, right? I always think of Gary Vee. He's always like, slow down. Slow the heck down. You're 26, you know? I'm like, yeah, shit. I'm 26. You know?
It's such a chase, I think, that we're in. And I was having this conversation with actually like my other coach where it's like, because of all the instant gratification that we have going on, me and Nick were saying that like, it can really screw with people because like one of my values is being fast paced anyway. So like I have not this expectation, but like I know I grow very quickly. Like literally 2 years ago, I was sleeping in my car, and now I'm in San Diego with you. So like things are going to be fast paced, but I think there's also like this thing, and we've both had it, where you have clients come in or you have people coming in and they expect to just come in and have results like this, when actually like you haven't learned a certain baseline of skill. And like when that certain baseline of skill hasn't been learned, it's like I said to you earlier, like it's like putting on your doctor's apron and expecting to do open heart surgery when you haven't even picked up like a biology textbook.
Right.
Like it's fully gonna screw you.
Exactly. No, I agree. And I think like a lot of clients, even just people, right? And the reason they want to grow so quickly isn't because they genuinely want to. Like, I mean, it's nice having money in your pocket, but at the same time, having a stronger foundation, a deeper why, a better sturdy foundation in your business, that's going to allow you to grow farther and faster. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, but at the same time, if you don't have that sturdy foundation, if you don't have that base, then you're not going to be able to grow and hit the 10K months you want to hit. And I think a lot of times people want to do that. They want to get to that and this is decision making, because a lot of what I did in fitness was for external validation. I want to be the one who's making 10K months. Oh yeah, I left teaching and now I'm making $500,000 a year, right? Like it was those moments of like, I wanted to prove myself, and that's why I wanted to grow fast. It wasn't because I genuinely loved coaching and wanted to do right? Like there was no foundation. It was always driven by external factors. And that's not how decision making should be.
It's almost like, I don't know how far you know with this, but it's almost like with Alex Hormozy, who you guys who are listening, he wrote 100 million offers. He's got a portfolio of companies that does like, what, I don't know, it's like $1 billion a year now. He's mad. But like he was saying, like when he started his fitness business and he started his growth, he was just doing it out of spite and anger for his father. Whereas like I'm gonna prove myself. I'm gonna keep going forwards with this and just keep hammering through. And now you said something, and I want to pick up on it. But I think it's really important for people to learn this, because I feel like loads of people in this industry, in this field, have something going on. So when you say like literally me, what do you mean by that?
For external validation?
Yeah.
Like I grew my first company to prove myself to my mother, to my teacher friends, to the people around me. I grew it because I wanted to prove myself, not because I actually wanted to do it. I think that's huge. When you can recognize, and it took me 2 years to recognize it. That's why it was so easy to be like, in December 21, let it fail. Like it was so easy to let it fail because there was no deeper reasoning behind it other than I wanted to prove myself. And guess what? I was able to. I proved myself real easily. We made $350K. Like, damn, beautiful. And then it's like, I was like, okay, now what? You know, now what? Okay, I proved myself. Look, Mom, I could take us to Hawaii.
Yeah. I think that hits home. I think it hits hard. I think there's definitely an aspect of me when I started that I was just like, I didn't even tell my parents about like the investment I made into mentoring. And then when I did tell people, it was like, how are you going to do that? Are those people not scamming you? And then I was just, it left me in such like a recluse energy, where that was where I was in my deepest hustle, where I was like, I would rather work than feel the emotions of anger and pain towards these other people that I feel aren't supporting me, but actually they're coming out of their own fears. Like they still love us, but they're coming out of their own fears, right?
Say it louder.
But at the same time, like when you're in that mode and you want that support, you know it's not there. And I think this is an important thing for you guys listening to this podcast while you're here, is like recognize like the best support that you can have whilst you're going along this journey. Yes, one could be a mentor, could be a coach, but two is going to be yourself beyond anyone else.
Oh yeah.
Like beyond anyone else is going to be you. Like if Arden got hit by a bus tomorrow,
Great.
like, not ideal, obviously, because like I'm staying at hers, and like that would be really inconvenient. But,
well, you could literally have my whole room to yourself now.
That would actually be quite convenient.
Yeah,
but,
I was gonna say you don't have to sleep on the floor.
And I would get a new best friend, her dog Barkley.
You can have Barkley. I could put it in my will.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
Want Barkley? Okay.
That would work. But the point I'm saying is like, if she got hit by a bus, I'm not gonna be able to rely on her to be able to create the results that I want, to be able to support me how I want. And so many people come into this journey expecting somebody to create a solution for them, and it's just not going to happen. You have to rely on yourself. And this is why when I have people come in, and I have people come into my coaching, and I'm like, yo, like, we're here to do this. I'm here to support you, but I'm never going to promise results for you, because like, I'm not here to stick a tube in your belly and suck out the fat.
Ew.
Like, this isn't liposuction.
Ew.
Like, this is like a fitness
Do you
program.
really say that?
Yeah.
You tell them you're
I don't literally say that,
Oh
but
my
like,
God.
example of done for you solution, right?
Yeah, I mean.
But point being, like, I've still got to show up, of course, but you've also got to show up in a way that allows you to be supported. And hey, like, if you need questions and queries, I'm there. But also, like, you never know what could happen to the person supposedly supporting you. So support yourself in the long run.
Yeah, can we talk about that? Like, decision making and mentorship? I feel like a lot of times, far too often, people make decisions to invest in a mentor for the mentor rather for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, anytime, especially in the beginning, I invested in mentors for my mentor, not for me, which was also the external validation, right?
Right.
I wanted the mentor to fix me, to grow my business. I wanted the mentor to do it all. And that's not, like, I literally am crying on the floor a few weeks ago. I have all the money in the world. I'm literally crying on the floor, and I was like, nobody could save me except me. It doesn't matter about the finances. It doesn't matter about, like, I had all the clients. I have all the money. But I was sitting there, and I was, like, on the floor, and I was crying, and I was like, damn, like, nobody can save me. I can't text my mentor at 3 a.m. right now, right? Like, you have to be there for yourself. So when it comes to decision making, choose a mentor because you want to invest in you. That's huge. Not because you want them to fix your business or fix your leadership or fix you.
Right. It was like the poor decision making that I had earlier on in my personal development journey, where I'd come through this fitness transformation with Nick Gloff, who was incredible as an overall bodybuilder coach because he'd come through the personal development. He'd been training since he was like 13, had been doing it a long time, so had been in the personal development field for a long time, so was able to support me with like anxiety issues and was able to support me in other things. And then I moved to a guy called Joe Brightman in the UK because I was like, hey, he's UK based and I want to have a coach at my UK shows. So that was like kind of the only really the basis for, and the fact that in his marketing, he was like, I believe we've got the best service here. And me being the easiest sell in the world.
You are.
was like, yo, I'm going to jump on board with this because this guy's clearly the best. And I jumped on board with him. And I was just like, within a week, I was like, oh no. Like, oh no. This is, one, it's not the best. Because how can you can't call yourself the best without having sampled every single other person in the industry. Like, how can you call yourself the best if you haven't sampled every other product? You could say, hey, this is why mine is different to other people in the industry. Like, that's what I say to people with mine, with where I have like a different level of accountability. But that's not to say another coaching provider wouldn't provide that. Maybe they just don't provide it personally like I do. And that's okay. But I can't call myself the best service out there if I don't genuinely know that, because then I'm not being in integrity. It's like, it's the same as like, I mean, this will probably be controversial, but that's just me. It's like Pfizer saying that COVID would prevent transmission when they actually didn't do any transmission-based studies. It's like, you're lying to everybody. You're lying to everybody.
Can we use like a more simple example?
Okay.
Like Walmart saying it's better than like Target?
Right.
Or like Chick-fil-A and I don't know, well, Chick-fil-A is just the best.
Better than
actually.
KFC.
Nah, Chick-fil-A is the best.
But it's also subjective as well, right?
Yeah.
It's so subjective.
So subjective.
So yeah, I think decision making it's not just crucial there, but like as you step up as a coach, as an entrepreneur, as a service provider, or even just in relationships, your decision making is going to be so crucial because you can feel it. Like, I'm sure you can as well.
Oh my gosh, have you ever
feel it
done,
in your body.
Have you ever done that? So I usually do like a breath work around it. Not really a breath work. What is it? Like an exercise.
Right.
And we can all do this together too. So what I do is I close my eyes. So go ahead, take a second to close your eyes. And then I think of something that I made a decision in the past that was wrong. And it like hits you in the gut. You guys probably feel that in your gut, right? Like when you made a decision that was like wrong and you know it was like a wrong decision, like you can feel that in your gut, right? Okay, now like rinse it out, open your eyes, look at something else. Okay, now close your eyes again and think of a time you made a decision that was right. You should feel the flutter in your chest, right? Yeah. When you think of a decision that you made that was right and you feel that flutter in your chest, you can feel the difference. So when I make a decision, I actually learned this, I think it was in the book You're Not Broken by Christopher Duncan. I just read a lot, so I forget if it was that book or not. But then, so this is kind of tapping into your superconscious. Mm-hmm. Then I close my eyes and the decision that I want to make, I close my eyes and I sit with it and I feel where I feel it. Mm-hmm. So if it comes up in my gut, I feel it in my gut. If it comes up in my chest, then I know it's the right decision. If it comes up in my gut, I know it's the wrong decision to make. Actually this morning, I just booked a flight to Hawaii, and I did that exercise. Because last night I had this weird feeling where I was like, maybe I shouldn't book it, maybe I shouldn't go. You know, it's only a few days, it's in the next week. Like literally, it was super sudden. And I did this exercise and I felt it in my chest and I said that I know I need to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's the right decision. And it helped me through my breakup. It helped me through investing $15,000 in my business coach. It helped me through moving across the country. And when we can tap into our superconscious for decision making, we can actually genuinely make really good decisions. Now, at the same time, this is also another topic. Not all decisions have to be right or wrong. Do you agree with that? Do you feel like sometimes it's just a decision and then you can make more decisions from there?
Yeah, like I think decisions, like if you're looking at your success as like, you don't need to be viewing the screen here, and I'll just give you an analogy. So if you put your hand at the top of your head, that let's just say that's success, right? And you've started somewhere in the middle of your body. A wrong decision would move you down, a right decision would move you up. Ultimately, as you move throughout your day, there's going to be decisions, micro decisions that are going to push you up or going to push you down. And it's ultimately up to you to keep making the decisions as intentionally as you can to push up. Yeah. And I think when you look at it like that, rather than every single decision must be the perfect decision, that way you can take the pressure off of, like I said to you yesterday as well, when you were walking through your process of making this decision to make the flight.
Yeah.
Like, make the decision in the morning because you're going to be in a better standpoint to make the decision. Where we all know, like, have you guys ever been in like the lull of like, you're tired, you want to go to bed, but you also want to make this decision because it's weighing on your mind, you're a little bit stressed about it, you've been putting the decision on for a while, you've got part of you saying do it, part of you saying don't do it. Like, you as the CEO of your life, of this happy, positive energy game of life, you're going to make better decisions in the morning. So if you can do that before you've had an entire day of stress or before you've had an entire day of whatever, it's going to allow you to be in a more reasonable standpoint. Like, the same for me as well. Like, I was feeling the call because when I've been on my travels, I've had times where I've stayed at a hostel, I've had times where I've stayed at friends, I've had times where I've stayed by myself. And yesterday, it got to the evening and I was like, I kind of feel like I want to make the decision to stay by myself. Because, like, I stayed with Arden for a few days. And I was like,
really sad, actually.
And I was like...
I'm just kidding.
And I was like, I'm kind of feeling this cool. And then when I was like, let's just sit on it. And then I woke up in the morning and I was actually like, dude, it's going to be so freaking inconvenient for you if you go somewhere else and then have to shift all your client calls, you have to shift the masterclass, you have then have to go back and forth between Ardens. Like, it's going to be very inconvenient. But the night before,
and
because
I had food.
Yeah, well, that as well.
I was feeding him.
But this is, I think, an important note to make when you make decisions, to also bear in mind your logic when you're doing this as well. Because yesterday, I was being emotional, and I was like, just lagging thoughts. And I think this is where honesty is important. I was like, I want my space. I want to be my myself. I want to honor Arden's energy so that she can make her decisions. She can have her space. And then I woke up in the morning and I just run through logic. And I think not just sales, but life as well. You can't just do things emotionally. You can't just do things emotionally.
Are you speaking to me right now?
You have to base things on logic.
I think I booked my Hawaii trip emotionally.
But I think this happens as well. Like I said, it's these decisions. Because even though you booked the Hawaiian decision, right? Yeah. You can still carry on making the decisions that are going to ultimately move you into that. So if you have fear and doubt around this, and I get it, because you're at the same point that I made when I booked my decision to do this entire trip. Yeah. Where the next 2 weeks, I was in complete fear and complete doubt, thought that I was going to come on this trip, going to be working all the entire time. I thought I was going to be in debt, when actually I've cleared more debt and I've made more money than I ever have before. Yes. And I've worked less than I ever have before. But it's amazing how, just based on these small decisions, we place so much thought and meaning into these decisions. Like, oh, because I've made this decision, this is the way that it has to be. Yeah. But it's like, these are just constructs and berations that we put on ourselves, where we put so much thought and meaning into that one decision that we think that's the pivotal moment of our life. But actually, even that decision to pick up a book, or to do a little bit of mindset work in the morning, or to go for an affirmation walk, could actually be more of a bigger decision than you investing to go to Hawaii. Yeah. But because of the different perspective that we put within these intentionalities, we fool ourselves. And it's wild. It's so wild that we fool ourselves.
It's so funny. No, you're so right about that. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that I also genuinely feel that, a lot of the decisions that you make, yes, they might push you up towards your head or down, but as long as the consistent decisions you're making, kind of like what you're saying, is going upwards, that's what matters, right? We don't want to just keep making decisions that aren't going to do us well.
Yeah. And you might be in a point where you make a few down decisions. I think it's challenging to put right and wrong, because even with the wrong decisions, you can find a lesson in it. Yeah. But
well, I think about when I moved across the country. I literally invested $15,000 in a coach. I broke up with my boyfriend. I moved 3,000 miles away, all within 2 months. I started business coaching. I let go of my fitness company, right? So I made so many decisions that actually in that moment, in that time, they did bring me down. I was in debt. I was financially unstable. I was traveling. I wasn't, consistent in the gym. I had literally lost my best friend of 5.5 years. I was in a new place, right? They were all decisions that when I got here to San Diego, I remember I was like, holy shit, this is the finest city in the world, and I'm the unhappiest, broke, and stressed out I'd ever been, right? And I was like, but the only way to go is up, And sometimes you have to get down there. You literally have to hit rock bottom, because that is temporary. That can only bring you up. And I think that's literally exactly what I had to do to be able to make I was reaching the next level of decision making.
I feel like decisions are only hard when you place fear into them, because without the fear and just certainty on the decision, there wouldn't be any issues. And this is when I was on my walk this morning, I literally was just pros and conning, going from Arden's and staying from Arden's. And I was, it wasn't just me, it was me and Lissy. And pros and cons. I was like, pros, stay with Arden, convenient, this. Cons, I was like, the cons are pretty little at this point. And then I was like, okay, cool.
Are you a Muslim? Go ahead, tell me. What's wrong with staying with me, Luke? No, I'm just messing.
But at the same time, I think that you can add to your ways of making decisions. Pros and cons list can massively help you, because as soon as you see that and you label it, it's logically makes sense. So even if I'm emotionally twisted about this, I know logically it makes sense and I'm good. Yeah. But it's amazing how we know very simply picking up a book, logically, yeah, it's going to make sense. I'm not going to put too much thought in about it. I'm not going to get emotional about it because I don't fear. I don't fear what would happen if I picked up a book or didn't pick up a book, or if I watched TV or read a book.
Yeah.
But because of the uncertainties around the decision of Hawaii or me coming on this workation, don't tell the US that I'm doing that, is that it's just fear behind it. But when you recognize that, it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to work through my fear or all the questions that are in my head right now. Let me write out all the questions and then actually give out answers. Like, example, if you guys ever decide to travel and work, and some of you might have started listening to this podcast because you want to travel and work, or that's a goal for you down the road, you can eke out all of the questions now and create more certainty and more self-belief for you to handle it. Like, one of the questions was just literally like, how am I going to run all of my coaching calls when I'm going on different time zones? Like, that was one of the limiting beliefs, limiting fears that was making me want to cancel the trip. Whereas, like, when you eke that out, it's like, oh, well, I'll just look at the different times and then I'll just move a few things. Yeah. But because of this fear that we haven't handled yet, we go into these loops and spirals. And I know this is probably so prevalent for you because you're like at this stage.
I literally travel, because I just got back from Florida, so it was like Eastern time zone, and I literally got back from Florida and realized I had booked a call for 6 a.m. Pacific, and I was like, shit! So I literally hopped on a call at 6 a.m. the other day. Like, I was like, I'm not going to cancel it. I didn't realize it until last minute, but it's like those moments of like, I was traveling, and it's just going with the flow. It's like, making the decision to just show up anyway.
I've got two questions. One is going to be, what is the hardest decision that you ever had to make?
I think all of the hard decisions that I had to make were behind one thing, and it was stepping outside of my comfort zone. So it wasn't just one specific decision. It was any time that I had to do something where I was putting myself in a place that I wasn't comfortable, like leaving my relationship, like leaving teaching. That was hard, Those were very hard decisions because I was so good at that. I was so comfortable. It felt so right throughout the years that I was there. But all of them adding up, I would say the hardest decision is to take that step forward even when it doesn't make sense. Committing to moving forward and growth even if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I feel that. And it ties in so well with like me just constantly embodying this perspective of keep moving forward. Like when I was on a bridge ready to take my life, when I was shifting coaching niches, when I decided to be a coach, when I left my relationship, when I left everything, when I decided to go on this trip, I was like, well, regardless, I just keep moving forwards because, like, what else are you going to do? Stay stagnant?
Right.
Like,
well, if you're not growing, you're decaying.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful point to take from this podcast. If you're going to take anything from it, is there's decisions that you can make that are going to push you up. There's decisions that are going to push you down, but you're not going to know that until you've made the decision. So you choosing not to act is also a decision. So recognize that. You guys listening to this, if there's decisions you're waiting on, that is also a decision. And yes, it's also bound by fear. So pros and cons yourself if you need to, but make a decision and move forwards. Arden, we've got a tradition on this podcast, and the tradition is that podcasts ultimately changed my life. So one decision one day to start listening to a podcast changed my life, and from that moment I shifted jobs. I started working in events, marketing and sales, and then moved into coaching. So for somebody who's maybe listening to this podcast, who's at a changing point in their life, maybe they're waiting on booking a trip around the world like you are, or maybe they're wanting to make a coaching business, or maybe they're just wanting to get into personal development a little bit more and start putting themselves out there. If you were speaking to your younger version of yourself who was at this critical point, what would be the message that you would want to spread?
make the decision because you can always make other decisions. Kind of like literally what we've talked about the whole time, right? It's if you make a decision and it's not right and you feel it in your gut, you can make another one. And it's always, even if it's money, it comes back. You'll figure it out. What's the worst that can happen, you know? And sometimes when we even look at what's the worst that can happen, it's not even that bad. It really isn't. And so if we can step into that and recognize that, then we can start taking risks and really following our dreams. And, you know, Ed Milet said this, and it was huge for me. It was, if you're neglecting your ability to follow your dreams, you're neglecting all of the people around you because you're not inspiring them because you're neglecting yourself. You know what I mean? And so if we can start stepping into the lighthouses that we should be, we can literally create this light, this attraction, and help everybody else around us, which then in fact, obviously, if we can be lighthouses, we create more lighthouses, and that creates a legacy.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So do you want to give a little plug for your socials, so the best place to reach you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Arden Shiller, ARDENSHILLER, formerly LGG Biz Coach, for those of you who've followed me in the past or follow me now. But yeah, that's where you can find me on Instagram.
Yeah, no worries. So we'll put Arden's tags in the show notes down below. But for all of you guys listening to this, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your beautiful day to come in and listen to this energy. Please, if you took anything from this podcast, if you felt anything resonated, like have a little think about who do you know right now that needs this message or needed this message, and just send them over the podcast, because it's not about me, it's not about Arden, but it's about getting this message to people that genuinely need it so that they can raise their vibrations and for ultimately us to create this happier, positive energy gamer life. So for everybody listening, keep moving forwards. Don't ever stop. We appreciate you and we hope you have an awesome day.